Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. And today we are talking about Lorcana art. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week, we had the amazing opportunity to we had the amazing chance to visit with Disney Lorcana game designer Steve Warner, where we talked all about game design and what went into bringing Disney Lorcana to life. And today we are super excited because we are joined by Lorcana artist and artist of a couple of my favorite cards, Casey Robin, to talk about the process of creating Lorcana art. So, Casey, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. Hi, guys. Thanks for
We are so excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and we actually met at WonderCon just a few months ago, which was awesome. And I see you posting all your art on all the conventions you go to around. So it's really nice to get you on and talk about some art here.
Yeah, I love going to conventions. It's so fun to I work from home, from my home studio, so it's great to get out and meet people. And it's always very refreshing and encouraging, even as it's also like deeply exhausting. I usually come away from it like, oh, I remember why I like to do what I do,
I was talking to you before we started recording. I was sharing with you how I was showing my daughter some of the Lorcana cards that you illustrated. So I had pulled up your Instagram page, and there's a picture on there that has the 4 cards that you did. But then we just started scrolling through, and of course there's, Shere Khan, there's Belle, there's Ariel, but then there's some of the stuff that you did. And my daughter, she almost loved the stuff that was original that you did more than the Disney stuff. So you just have an amazing, incredible talent, and this was a perfect match here.
Thank you. That makes me happy. I've worked really hard to develop my own voice too, and I love Disney stuff so much, and it's really fun to work on, but I'm also very proud of my own stuff that I dream up in my head.
Yeah, and you have a very distinctive style, which, that's awesome. So I think before we dive into the incredible work that you've done, James and I are probably both, and our audience, we're all curious to know how you ended up working on Disney Lorcana in the first place.
It's not a very exciting story. I got an email one day from Edgar Paston about some secret project, and he's like, hey, hi, I'm Edgar. I think I met you at a convention or something. Do you want to do a project for Ravensburger? It would make for a good portfolio piece, and it's fun. And I'm like, cool, what is it? And so then I signed an NDA, and he showed me Lorcana, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, for sure, I'm in. It was just like, hey, you want to do this? Yes, I do. I don't even know how he found me. I think it was a convention. I'll have to ask him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, do you remember meeting him at the convention? Now I'm going to question, every time I go to convention.
I might just be inventing a story so that I have a story to tell. I don't know how he first came, because I've seen him since at conventions. So I'm like, am I just transporting that memory back in time to make this all make more sense to me? I should ask him next time I see him, how'd you find me? Was it a convention? I don't remember.
Yeah, it seems like they were on the hunt for artists. They were putting feelers out. They were going through all kinds of hashtags on Instagram. I would assume that they were also going to the different conventions that a lot of artists go to.
Yeah, I tend to meet a lot of fun people doing fun things at conventions. That's one of the things that keeps me coming back, is all the jobs you get, months, years after, out of the blue. We're like, oh, hey, I saw your booth at WonderCon,
Yeah. Speaking of, so that's where I met you, was at WonderCon back in March. And so I've been kind of curious to know what your experience is with going to conventions, working on Disney stuff. Is that kind of all melding together, or is it where you just want to go and do your thing, at the conventions?
Well, it really depends on which convention it is and who the people are at the convention. So I'm always trying to be mindful of my audience. So if it's specifically a trading card convention, then I am just talking about Lorcana, because that's what I've done in trading cards. If it's a Disney heavy convention that's mostly fans, then I'll show some of my Disney stuff and Lorcana, of course. And lately I've started offering like little sketches of Disney characters just to keep me busy in between signing cards. It's just been fun. And then if it's a general convention, I might have a little framed sign like, hey, by the way, I did Lorcana cards. I can sign them if you want. And then it's mostly my own stuff with like a smattering of fan art because I started when I was starting out, I did more fan art, and now I'm more interested in doing more original art. Although it's not to say I never do fan art; it's just not my focus right now. So I really, in answer to your question, it depends on who the audience is. I try to tailor it to each convention. Like I want to do CatCon, so I want to stop what I'm doing, make a bunch more cat art because I have some, but I need more, and then go and have a whole table of cats. Like I'd love to do Midsummer Scream, which is a horror convention.
Yes.
I actually really love horror and Halloween, and I have some witches. I'm like, but I could do more. Like if you guys are into it. So, but yeah, it's been cool doing Lorcana stuff at conventions. I would say I'm really new to that. Like, it's very weird for me to have people asking me for my autograph or to even charge for signing stuff. And the whole world of trading cards is, I mean, it's new to me in the sense that I've never been on the other side of it. I've like seen them. I thought they were cool. Like, oh, magic, nice art, you know, Pokemon. My siblings collect those. I never got into trading cards myself, but it's a neat world.
I have to back this train up. Did you say there's a cat con?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but my daughter would be there in a heartbeat. I better not tell her about this.
It's in Pasadena, right?
So much money. Yes, because we have two cats, Turnip and Calcifer, and they're extremely spoiled, and I want to get them some stuff. And I want to also like see, you know, what I do well there. I want to make cat art. I just want an excuse to make cat art.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a pretty good excuse.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of making art, this is another thing you talked about when we were off the air, or maybe talked about it since we started. You were talking about becoming a professional artist. Like you have your studio there, and you're talking about all these fun projects that you're doing. But I have to imagine there's a lot of people who aspire to make art full time. I mean, you were even talking about the process of Ravensburger hiring you. I can't tell you how many people I talked to on Twitter and on Instagram who are like, I want to make art for Disney Lorcana. But you are making a living making art. So what was that moment like when you realized that you were able to make a living making art?
It was a process, you know. I think the initial call to maybe want to be an artist came from an episode of Reading Rainbow. There was an episode on, I think it was a book called The Indian Paintbrush, and it was about a boy who had a magic paintbrush. And I remember this cool painting of a sunset that someone did on the show, and I was just like, I want to do that. I want to paint stuff, you know? And then more specifically, when I was 14, I found a book at Borders that was The Art of Animation from Mickey Mouse to Hercules, which was at the time the newest Disney movie. And I was gobsmacked when I saw the production design, character sketches, rough character sketches especially, and then like the breakdown of how they design Meg. And I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So getting more specific. And from that point, it was no going back. You know, that was what I needed to do now. So then it was just like, okay, how do I do this? So I was lucky enough to get to go to a performing and fine arts high school. And I just switched my major from music to visual art, took every art class I could, drew on the weekends. I went to life drawing at a place behind an Italian food restaurant downtown. And I drew out of books. I drew out of DVDs. I kept a sketchbook of drawings from life, and I just like worked super hard because I heard that's what you have to do. I specifically wanted to be a Disney artist. Like Glenn King was my hero. That's what I wanted to be. So it was all in service of that at that point, at that stage of my life, from my, you know, my mid-teens through my mid-20s. And then in terms of figuring out, I think I always knew I just wanted to be an artist, and I've always been super creative, and I had never had much real world experience outside of that. I had a bookstore job. I worked at Borders bookstore when I was 16 for the first several years of my young adulthood. And it was bookstore and art. And that was all I knew. And I was very poor. Very, you know, I had no money. And I learned how to live poor. I shopped at the 99-cent store for my groceries. I, you know, learned how to live extremely close to the bone. because I wanted to do this, and I wanted to devote myself to it. Um, I think a big breakthrough for me was when I started selling prints at conventions. My mom was an author and speaker, and is now an instructional designer as well. And at the time, she had written a book defending Harry Potter from people who wanted to burn it. And so, people from a Harry Potter convention, this was like back in the first flush of Pottermania, back before all of the controversies we've had now. Anyway, they invited her to a convention, and she said, "Hey, my daughter does art. Can she sell prints of her fan art here?" And so I didn't have any fan art at the time, and I went and painted like 12 paintings in a couple of weeks and ran off prints of them, and I made $12,000 that first
Oh my
convention.
gosh.
And a lady from my church had loaned me $5,000 to get there because I didn't have any money. And I really don't know to this day, like, Charlotte James, thank you for believing in me. I don't know. I would have had no way to pay her back if I flopped. Like, I had to make that money. So that was when I was like, okay, there's a market for this. And I've just kept building from there.
That's
Your
awesome.
story is so inspiring. Like, I kid you not. I have goosebumps on my arms because you are like the rags to, I mean, I'm not going to say riches, but I mean, you worked hard.
Rags to reasonable stability.
Rags, yes. But I mean, you put in the effort. Like, you did it. Now you're living that life. And
Yes.
so many people go through lives having dreams, but they're too scared to chase it. And you like chased it and you got it. And I think that that's like so inspiring. So inspiring.
And I must say to those people, I know how that feels too. And not every stage of life is for chasing things. Sometimes you just got to survive and take care of yourself. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in just like making sure you're basically okay, earning a basic living. There's no shame in having a bookstore job while you're also doing art. And I still have dreams that I'm afraid to chase. They just keep getting bigger, you know? And I'm very timidly chasing some of them right now. So,
CatCon, here Casey comes.
So much bigger than CatCon. That's why they're scary. It's because they're
Mega
big.
CatCon.
No, I've got books in me. I've got all kinds of stuff in me.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Well, let's take a little step back and talk about like from when you were starting with at that Harry Potter convention to now working on things like Lorcana. Mm-hmm. What kind of things did you work on that journey to now?
Gosh, a lot of random stuff. I've been freelance pretty much my whole career. I've had like a short time in-house at Disney, a short time in-house at like a subsidiary of Nickelodeon, and the rest of it has been freelance. So when you're freelance, it's anything and everything. I've done murals in children's bedrooms. I've done gallery art and collector art. Like, I have a guy who just likes my art and pays me thousands of dollars for original paintings that no one else will ever get. And I've done like, for him, I did some beautiful Art Nouveau Mucha-esque ladies, each representing like a different liquor to go over his bar, to look cool over his bar, you know, stuff like that.
Now I want to see these.
Yeah, you can actually see them. I am allowed to show them. I just cannot sell prints of them because they are his. That's the arrangement that we have. I've done some interesting toy design and consulting. I worked on a product that's called Instapoodles. It's really cute. It's like a little cup noodles with a little like bath fizz thing that looks like ramen. And you pour water in and it fizzes away and like little poodles float to the top. So they came to me, and I don't know how they found me. I think another artist recommended me, and they're like, "Can you help us make our poodles cuter?" I'm like, yeah. And then I've worked with them on another project that's really neat that hasn't come out yet. I guess I can't talk about that. Let's see. I'm currently working on some really cool stuff with Jerrica Cleland. She started at Pixar and then went on to work on Wolfwalkers and Song of the Sea, Calamity Jane, some really beautiful international indie animation. International indie animation is where 2D stays alive, and that makes me so happy. So we are working on a really awesome feature that is in pre-development that there's so much I'm not allowed to talk about yet because it hasn't come out yet. You know, I can talk about Wildermage. So we're working on an AR-based game, kind of like Pokemon Go if the aesthetic was Brian Froud, you know? So you walk around out in nature and find fairy folk, and they need your help to restore the balance of nature. So you're like casting elemental magic, and I got to design all of the characters and then do the production art for them. And I've also been doing art direction on that, so that's been neat. When I was at Disney as an intern, I co-directed an in-house short called Chalk. And for that short, I pitched the idea, did the storyboards, did color keys, and then directed it along with Justin Sklar. It was very challenging, but it came out really good. And we had 14 people who had never worked together before with 6 weeks to make an animated short, which is not much time at all. So we did that. I got to design characters for Goldie Hawn, for the Goldie Hawn Foundation. They have a program called Mind Up that's about mindfulness in children. And it's like teaching kids about their brain chemistry and how they don't have to be afraid when their brains feel agitated because they can like calm themselves. So imagining, you know, different parts of the brain as kind of friendly animal characters so they don't seem so overwhelming. It was really fun. And that was neat because I got to talk directly with Goldie and really try to draw out her vision. And she was lovely, very, very energetic. I couldn't keep up with her, but it was really fun. And I got to, when I was at Nick Jr.'s Noggin, so I worked at Noggin a little while back, and I was on a show called On the Job, which was really fun. It was teaching kids about like different jobs that exist, you know, like ice cream maker, sanitation worker, astronaut. And while we're teaching them about these jobs, you're also like sneaking in lessons about science, you know, so like liquid can freeze and become a solid, you know, that kind of thing, or what propulsion is, using very simple terms. So for those, I got to design the characters, the backgrounds, all the props, everything. It was really fun. We got nominated for 2 different episodes, got nominated for a Kids Screen Award, and we got to partner with NASA on the rocket. It was a rocket engineer, like a rocket scientist and an astronaut. And so I feel like it's not rocket science, but it was rocket science for 3-year-olds, you know? And then I've worked on many illustration projects, a ton of Disney princess books, including like little golden book versions of The Lion King, books of Beauty and the Beast and Tangled. And that was neat because I got to, you know, paint. I was in charge of character paints. So they'd send me the black and white line art. I'd paint it up beautifully, send it back with all the light and color. And my favorite part was putting the blush on the princesses. I loved that. And I'm really grateful to my art director there, Adrienne Brown Norman, because she saw my art at a local gallery and was like, hey, you want to work? And I'm like, yeah, what do you got? And she's like, princesses, you want it? I'm like, yeah, I do. So all these different jobs. And then I do a lot of my own stuff. You know, I'm really grateful that people are willing to buy my original work. I just want to make a thing and then I make it and sell prints of it. So people who buy my prints at conventions or on my Etsy are like directly supporting that. And my favorite thing that's come out of that is March of the Fairies, which is a hashtag where we draw fairies in the month of March. And it's very low key and it's very open to all. And I really love the spirit of that hashtag. And then the last really cool thing I got to do was I did get to design a line of clothing for pinup girl clothing. They do like vintage reproduction style clothing. So I got to do like textile design for that. Learned a lot about surface design. I got to, you know, have a little fashion line.
Wow, that's such a wide range of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot. I also, you know, sing and write novels and I've always
what don't you do?
Yes, the freelance life, for those listening who want to be artists, the freelance life is wild and unpredictable, and you end up doing some cool, weird stuff.
So I'm curious. I mean, you already mentioned how a couple of your jobs, people found you at like conventions or art galleries or whatever. How do you typically, is that typical for how you find jobs to do art? Like, is it just going to conventions and people being like, man, I like you? Or is it, you know, word of mouth? How are you finding all these crazy, like working with NASA, designing toys? Well, toys was word of mouth, but how do you typically find these crazy jobs?
I very seldom go looking for them. They usually come to me. So I just make sure that I'm putting myself out there, making myself available, showing what I can do. So I have a website, I have an Instagram. I found a lot of benefit in going to conventions and meeting people in person because there's that great person to person connection. Like you can't beat that. Especially when I was starting out, that was so helpful. A lot of my early jobs came from convention work. And then beyond that, it's been through friends, through people I meet, like through mutual friends, like Jerica Cleland and I. We've been this wonderful, collaborative, creative relationship that's been like the best of my career, and on things I'm so excited about. The most of which I can't talk about, but that was through a mutual friend who was also an artist, like Dave Zabowski. He was an artist on Disney's Pocahontas and many of the Renaissance films, and lovely man. He had brought me into his illustration company to do some work with them when they were starting out, and through that I met Jerica and got to do a little bit of work on a feature she was developing, and then we just really liked each other, and so we kept working together. It was great. And I always try to deliver for people and to earn their trust and be the kind of person that I'd want to work with, and treat others as I'd like them to treat me, and that keeps people coming back, and it creates good word of mouth. So yeah, I just try to work hard and do a good job, and I'm very seldom looking for work. It's usually kind of lined up, which I know is a great privilege. I'm really grateful for it, and I'm always afraid that stream will dry up, because like, it seems like this existential dread, but something always comes through.
The life of an artist.
Yeah.
So one of the amazing things about being able to record on video and doing YouTube and stuff is we can share some of your art. So I know this is like not part of the outline here, but I pulled up your Instagram page and I just wanted to like share it. Can you guys do this?
Also, my eyes watering from allergies, not crying, just so everyone.
Right. So these we'll take a closer look at these. These are your 4 cards that you've done so far. But I mean, like I was talking to you, I was showing my daughter some of your art, and myself, like you have a very distinctive style, and that's one of the things I love.
Would say is something that's in my own style, and then that one with the dark brown background. That's kind of what I've been working towards. I feel like I have 2 styles, maybe 3, but like I have my kind of cute mid-century girly style, and then I have my like close to nature Rackham-esque fairies style, and those 2 kind of live in parallel worlds.
And here's the Instapoodles.
Yeah, they're very cute. I had a very fun time. It's so rare that I draw Disney characters. I've only been doing this for the conventions that I've been doing, and I've been posting them because like I didn't have anything else to post. But if you pull up like that fairy on the far right there,
this one here.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with this one. So this, oh,
hold on. Yeah. Okay, nope. It's not letting me log in.
Don't worry about it. But these are some of my sketches from March of the Fairies, and I'm taking some of my favorites to finals, so I'm very excited for those.
That is so cool. So this is the one style you were talking about here.
Yeah,
and then this is the second style.
And if you scroll further down, I have been working a ton for clients on stuff I cannot share. So a lot of this stuff is not finished or like not final, but sketches. But there's some
okay
back that's more finished or developed,
I have Instagram on my phone, but not on my laptop here, so that's one of these limitations here. Okay, where are we looking at?
Just keep scrolling.
Okay, show more post.
Yeah, because lately I've been super duper busy, so I haven't posted a lot of like finished stuff. A lot of sketches, because sketches are quick. But like the little fairy and the tulip there is like a nice finished
this
piece.
one here.
Yeah, I did that for.
Yeah, I remember seeing all that stuff when I was looking for information about your table at WonderCon. I remember seeing all the fairies because it was happening in March.
Yeah,
so I got to see all the March of the Fairies.
Oh, okay.
I like to live stream the process, and then I post a picture of the sketch because all I have is an hour in the morning because then I have to get to work so that I don't run out of money. And so I'm like, all right, I'm here for an hour and this is as far as we can get. And then tomorrow we'll do another sketch.
So this is actually a perfect segue because talking about specific art styles, Disney Lorcana has this storybook art style. And the incredible thing about it is you can take artists, all different kinds of artists, but they all have like a Disney Lorcana style to it. So did you have to create a sample piece as an audition to see if you could like create that storybook art style? Or did they just look at your body of work and say, yes, we want Casey creating art for Lorcana? Like, what was that process like?
Well, thankfully it was the second one. I'm grateful to be at a stage in my career where I don't really have to do sample pieces much anymore. Not that I'm not willing to, but there's a body of work there, like you said. And so, yeah, it was, hey, we think you'd be a good fit for this. And then, of course, I studied the style and I went through the artist guide, which broke it down. And I really tried to make sure that I honored the requests of the style. Like we want this kind of line work, we want this kind of shading, we want your approach to color to be like this. And I thought, what a beautiful style when I saw it. So it was no, there was no friction, I wanted to like match that style. I'm like, yeah, cool. It's different than my normal style a little bit because it's Disney. But there's a lot of common loves there. So I'm like, okay, I also really love color, really love, soft shading and things with emotion and beautiful light and painted line work. That's kind of what I used to be doing at Disney Publishing. I'd always paint the line work. So that's easy enough to do. And then I just, kept working at it till I hit it. And I feel like with my Tiana, I hit it almost immediately. I was really, really glad about that because I was, like, oh, I don't know if I can, like, I think I can do this, but I hope I actually can. It's always a little scary when you say, yes, I can do this, and then you have to perform. But yeah, I really like the way that one came together.
So this one, so we're going to talk about this one for a second. This one came out, I think it was in set 2. And we'd already seen a couple of 100 cards from the first set, and we'd already seen other stuff get revealed. But when this card came out, it was like almost a shock at how colorful and beautiful it was, despite the fact that we'd already seen hundreds of really awesome cards. It just felt like something special to me, personally.
Same.
And, you're looking at it and you're like, how is this not enchanted? Something that was used for an enchanted card. How does something like this, talk us through some of the process. Like, do they give you the character only and then you just like, here's my idea, or do they kind of like give you some more of a framework when you're starting to do this?
Well, you get a bit of a framework. They let you know generally what kind of mood they want. They let you know what character. You can let them know, oh, hey, I love the following characters. Like it's allowed to give it a little wish list, but they then look at what they need, which characters they have on offer, and they try to pair you with a character they think you do well with. And me loving princesses and flowy dresses, I was obviously delighted to get Tiana in her beautiful gown. I actually think it's the most beautiful gown of any Disney princess. Like this dress here doesn't get enough screen time, so I was really glad to be able to show her in this dress. And I was also excited at the opportunity to do like some fireflies because they're pretty cool, and I wanted to see like the dress and the fireflies together, and it's exciting. But yeah, it's not like they don't leave you guessing too much. They want you to succeed, right? So they give you your art brief, they give you your guidelines, they give you what basically what they want, but then it's up to you to take that little text outline and turn it into a compelling image. And of course you want to give them some options of like, well, here's a composition that could work, what about this pose? And your art director guides you through the whole process. So they, ideally like you and the art director catch the vision together and be like, oh, I see what would be really cool, let's do this. And usually you propose something and they'll then choose from the options that you've given them, and from there it's just a matter of refining it. You take it from a rough sketch to black and white to color to all the way done with all the beautiful details, and there are often revisions along the way. It's very common in this kind of work. Yeah, so it's very back and forth, very collaborative the whole time. And I try to bring my whole heart to it. Like that's the special thing I bring.
I think it came through. And so, how do you know when you're done, or do
When
you ever know?
when you can invoice them for the amount that they promised you. No, it's like it's never done. Like I don't know. That's such a hard question because when I think I'm done and when like Disney thinks I'm done and when my art director thinks I'm done might be three different realities that we're looking at. So it's a matter of kind of reaching that point where everyone there's a consensus that yes, this is done. Personally, I feel like I'm done when every stroke that I add makes the picture worse instead of better. And that's true for any art piece I make. If I move my brush around, being like, maybe here, no, I'll take it back. Maybe there, no, I'll take it back. And I just keep doing. I'm like, maybe it's done. you know.
I
Um,
like that. That's very profound.
yeah, that's really how I tell. And sometimes I can even tell before I start making errant marks, and I'm like, wait, don't touch it, it's done. And that has been a sense it's taken me many many years to develop. And in terms of like when it's officially done, it's when Disney approves it and your art director says congratulations, you get this wonderful little email like congratulations, your card's been approved, please invoice us. And then you get to collect your little money prize and you get to feel proud and you get to feel relieved because yay, it's done. Because you're holding your breath, you're like, all right, I think it's as beautiful as it can be. I think that I've wrung every last bit of, enchantment out of this that I can, given my skills personally. Here you go. Do you like it? And you're just like, please like it. But sometimes they'll come back with a note that helps you see things in a new way where you're like, oh, wow, I've been staring at this so long. I didn't even realize that I should just darken that and then it looks done. So I'm grateful for any art director who has a really keen eye and can give like very actionable notes. They're like this, that, and then it's done, And then Disney, it really depends on like who from Disney is looking at your card. I've had the process be very, very complicated with a lot of back and forth. I've had the process be like very smooth, like, oh, just like a glint in the eye and then you're done, So it runs the gamut. And I think from Disney's point of view, I mean, I can't really speak from them, but if I were them, I'd imagine they're just trying to make sure that their characters go out into the world looking great, which, who doesn't want that?
We had a guest on a couple weeks ago, and she said one of the things that she loves about Disney Lorcana is that it gives you the opportunity to have a Disney experience no matter where you're at in the world, really. Like, you can buy it. You don't have to go to theme parks. And like hearing you talk about the love and the care and the attention and the iterative process that you go through with Disney makes me realize just exactly why playing this card game feels like a Disney experience. Like, it really is like the stamp there.
We all really truly care, everyone who's involved at every stage, and we all want to bring the magic because they picked people who love Disney deeply and truly, and they themselves who are working on the game like love that too. And it's a very pure thing when people can work together to try and create something magical for the whole world to enjoy.
Yeah.
And kind of what I always wanted, that's why I wanted to go work for Disney in the first place, was like, I want to make the world that much more magical because the world can be very harsh and the world can be very scary and cold. And to have something warm that you can return to, that's inviting, that's like, that is such a wonderful thing. And it can be such a source of strength in times of trial. And it could be such a source of inspiration. And it was for me when I was young. And it still is sometimes. So I want to give that to others.
That is beautifully said.
Mhm.
So I want to agree with James. When Tiana came out, it took my breath away. I mean, and the fact that it wasn't an enchanted card, like the art is just so beautiful, like it's stunning. But you also did have a chance to work on an enchanted card, and we're bringing this up here right now. So I declared this as my chase card. However, I am like broke, so I have not been able to get this card yet.
I hope you
One of these days. Such a beautiful card. And I think we all know that like Ravensburger really wants the enchanted cards to stand out from the crowd, even though you have amazing cards like Tiana and seems like every set, just even the base quality of the art goes up a notch. But what was the process of creating an enchanted card like? Because I imagine it's like your experience with Tiana and Yzma, but times 10.
Um, kind of. I think you do feel the sense of like this needs to be special. This needs to be extra special. And so then that's the challenge I'm trying to solve for. Like, how do I make this give something more than that other thing which I also gave my all on, you know? And for this one I thought there's a quality of light that I can do with these like backlit windows. There's a chance to do some beautiful like Rococo inspired curves, which I love so much from Cinderella. I love like the 50s take on Rococo. Like I grew up with Cinderella, and that color palette and that shape language is imprinted on me forever. It's in my art. And so I'm like, okay, we'll do some beautiful swirls. And then I'm like, oh, what a great opportunity to do a lot of very delicate and beautiful, magic particles, fairy dust, and that kind of thing. And then I thought, well, also Cinderella's got a pretty great ball gown. I think we all like were excited to, everyone on the team was like, how's the dress gonna look? And I'm like, I want a lot of movement. I want a very dynamic pose, but I want the face to be warm and inviting and feel centered and calm. So even while everything is exciting around her, she's very centered. Because to me, like that's Cinderella's core strength, is that she never loses herself. She is always like, she always knows who she is. She always knows her worth. And that makes her a very calm presence, which I like. So then I can have a lot of fun with the movement around the dress. And I knew that if I put the pixie dust on a different level, that they'd be able to like foil that and make that like shiny. And I was also anticipating the shininess of it. I'm like, oh, it's going to be so sparkly. So in terms of the process, I really wanted to honor the original film. So I went back to the original Cinderella from 1950. I pulled model sheets that were used on the film itself. I did several studies from Mark Davis's work, a few trace overs to get me started, and then just freehand studies on paper, just like they used to do. I frame by frame studied the pixie dust and how, I don't know what to call it in Cinderella, like in Peter Pan it's pixie dust, but I'm just going to call it that, and how it moves, because it moves in large shapes first, big S curves like this. And then you have these micro shapes in between, but you have to really design those big shapes beautifully for it to work. And then I really took my time with the face. We went over the face a lot because it's hard. Her face is like kind of just a pretty woman face. Like it's not highly stylized. So if you get it just a little bit wrong, it looks very wrong. And also right up front, I asked them, do you want screen accurate Cinderella? Like 1950s Cinderella with the bouffant, hairstyle that's like strawberry blonde with the silver dress. I ended up tinting it a little bit just because everything else was so saturated. Or do you want like modern Disney consumer products Cinderella, because they're really different designs. If you put them next to each other, there's so many little changes that add up. So they said screen Cinderella, and I said yay, and started studying the film. Yeah, I think there was one point where my art director just asked me to add more details and take more time with the pixie dust and make it just that much more refined. That was fun because I knew all the heavy lifting was done, But yeah, I try to think in terms of large, medium, small, always. So first, what are the big shapes, the big gestures? What's the big idea? And then, okay, how do you break down those shapes specifically in the dress or, the hair? Like, okay, you've got like the front bang and then like the bun thing. And then small, like what are the little details? How do the eyelashes go? I studied her eyelashes so much. How does she hold her hands? How is the pixie dust shaped? Are there any that have 8 points or does it stop at 6? I studied all these things.
Wow. That's an insane amount of detail. And I just, the thing about this art, it's just, it looks, especially Cinderella herself, looks like really simple, but there's so much detail in it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in leaving breathing room in your art. Like, I like my art to be airy, to have some space in between all the details. And that was a conversation between me and my art director, like, how much air is too much air? Will people feel cheated if you don't, render this part more? Because I tend to go as simple as I can to achieve the effect that I want, with like only allowing myself a little bit of fine detail. Because otherwise, I find that I become very obsessive and noodle everything, and then everything is detailed, and then nothing is, So I like to frame, like I framed her almost in a church window, like a stained glass art type thing, which has the amber shape language from the game all throughout
Hmm.
it. That was how I really, and in addition to the amber coloring, I'm like, okay, here's a great chance to get that amber in there. But yeah, I really prize simplicity in art. Not everybody does, and that's fine. It's a matter of taste. It's just my particular tastes run towards the simpler. Um, I think there's profound beauty in something simple. I like that in like Miyazaki drawings, when he's doing his little studies for his characters. They're so simple and yet they express so much. Like my husband's always saying, you want to do the most with the least. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
I could sit here listening to you talking about art design all night. Like, I'm thoroughly enjoying hearing every little detail that you have to share.
I think about it in great detail. So do feel free to move me along because I could talk all night.
Well, let me just say that luckily, I was actually able to get this card. It was I was opening Rise of the Floodborn boxes, and it was in my last box I was going to open. It was in, I think, if it wasn't the last pack, it was like in the bottom row of packs. So it was like at the very end of all the stuff I was going to be opening for this set, and it was in there, and I just like screamed of joy and went and showed it to my wife, and I'm like, "Look, I got it!" It was like, could not believe,
It's a very Charlie Bucket moment, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
then I found a coin in the gutter, and I bought one more pack of cards, and the golden ticket was in there.
Yeah, and like Jared, this was my chase for the set. This was the one that I had to have, and I was so happy when I got it. So thank you, and also thank you for signing it. Jared zoomed out, but if you notice on the bottom of the enchanted, there's so much space for your signature. It's so nice of them to give that for you.
I love how much of the art they show in these and all of them. And I've got to say, I'm deeply honored and deeply grateful to have been able to do this card. It means a lot to me. Like I said, Cinderella personally means a lot to me, not just because I watched it growing up, but because I'm a very gentle and kind-hearted person, and so I can see a lot of myself in her, and want to be, in some ways as strong and calm as she is. I know that that's a controversial take on the character. We won't get into my take on Cinderella, but I was very honored when Ravensburger asked me and like gave me the chance to do an enchanted, and they said it was because of my Tiana, and I felt just really I don't know, just kind of beamed with pride a little bit. I'm just like, I love Disney princesses. I love being able to try and do them justice. I always feel like I'm only trying to do them justice. And to have a chance to do it on something so special was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on, James, should we showcase the other two cards that Casey's done?
Sure.
Yeah, there's more.
Let me get this off the screen here. We'll come up with your other Cinderella that you did.
Yeah, they let me do them. I
The
developed
regular one.
Yeah, the regular. I worked hard on that one too.
This is a great card in the game, by the way. Like, it sees a lot of play. I don't know if you play the game, but not only is this amazing art, but it's a good card in the game too.
Yeah, I've heard that the move is useful. Sing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't
Very
actually
good card.
Play very many tabletop games. I play a ton of video games. So when I have time to play games, like that's what I play. But yeah, this one was a nice little moment. And my idea here is that Cinderella is just now stepping out of the coach and seeing the palace in person for the first time. And I thought that was kind of a special moment to capture. And like with the other one, I wanted to take my time with the sparkles and the pixie dust. I didn't go quite as ham with it, swirling all around her, because I wanted to save that for the other. But we did let her dress be very sparkly. And again, I'm honoring the original Cinderella design with the silver dress. It drives me crazy when people say her dress is blue. Like, the local color of the fabric is not blue. It looks blue because it's silver in moonlight. So of course it looks blue, right? But now that we've retconned it with the live action Cinderella, it's canon now, I guess. But her dress is silver. I'll die on that hill.
You're gonna have to go back and look.
It doesn't really matter, but it matters to me because I'm a dork and I care about the little details. But yeah, again, it was a nice chance to get some of those beautiful curves, like the little dealie that's under the lamp there was really fun to render. And the lamp itself, I worked in a little bit of that amber shape language also on the door. And I don't know, it was fun to like get to depict this moment that's not actually in the film, because you never actually see Cinderella seeing the castle for the first time. So I got to imagine that. And I had to kind of fight for the head tilt, because at one point I got a note saying, make her head completely parallel to the top of the card. So she's like looking dead ahead. And I was like, no, she's looking up at the castle like, wow. Like, wow, like, don't you want that wow? You know? So I explained why the head tilt, and then they're like, oh, okay, you know?
I like it.
Yeah, it was really challenging to get the scale right of the pumpkin coach, because it's quite a diminutive little coach in the movie. Even compared to Cinderella, it's not that big. But it feels kind of weird when you draw it as small as it actually is. So we played around a lot with the size. And, you know, like, are we going to show the slipper? How are we going to crop this? We ended up cropping it kind of medium wide. And it was really hard to get that left hand, like the card left hand right, the one that's holding onto the door. We went through many iterations of that.
I love it. Okay, so this next card was probably a challenge piece. I mean, they probably wanted to see if you could. They probably wanted to see if you could do something besides Cinderella, because we have a villain here.
They gave me a villain. Yes, give me more villains, please, Ravensburger. If you're listening, Maleficent, please. Yeah.
Hint.
I keep telling them, like, Maleficent, she's my favorite. But I love Yzma, love the Emperor's New Groove. I'm a huge fan of Eartha Kitt. I love her complete body of work. I actually first encountered her in Ernest Scared Stupid, where she plays like a garbage witch. And it's such a weird first movie to see her in. And then later I found out she was Catwoman. And then later she came out in The Emperor's New Groove. But yeah, she's a very flamboyant, very theatrical kind of fashion plate. And me being a fan of Eartha Kitt and also a lover of avant-garde fashion, I was delighted to get this assignment. And I talked with Edgar about it. And he's like, yeah, we knew you liked fashion, so we gave you Yzma. And I'm like, thank you. I was so happy that you like thought I was up to it. You know, a lot of people don't think that I can do a villain, but like, yeah, I can, and it's fun. Her face is so manic. One thing I realized while I was doing this card is that the design of Yzma is brilliant. Her face is just a skull. Like, the shape of it is just like a cartoon poison bottle skull. And with most of the details are on, you don't really notice. And until I studied it, I didn't notice just how, like, it's like a poison bottle warning, which totally makes sense because poison, you know, extract of lava. It wasn't the poison. Yeah, so I love like the shape language, really discovering the shape language of Yzma, and then getting to add some lavish, ridiculous touches to her already ridiculous outfit was super duper fun. And her color story is great. Like, she was fun. And I was so happy that I nailed the face right away, because that was the one thing I'm like, I gotta get that right. You know, it's gotta be that really manic smile that's like, you know? And then secondarily was getting the pose right. Like, oh, the whole thing with Yzma, she acts like she's super young and sexy while being quite old, you know, and like how low does the chest go? It's quite sunken, it's quite low. How sharp do the hips go? I'm used to drawing healthy young people more or less, and she's not that. So it was fun to like get to play with that anatomy, how bony she is, and then just like working fun little designs into the throne and stuff. It was a good time. And again, I gotta give credit to Edgar, because at one point I was struggling with like, what should these fun patterns on the throne be? And he like provided me with the draw over with some really great patterns that were pulled from the film. And so I was able to like incorporate those into that. It really helped me out when I was kind of stuck.
Beautiful. I love it.
And she joined the pantheon of evil ladies in a chair. The
Yep.
the multiple cards that feature that in Lorcana somehow.
Yeah, I gave her sort of a chaise lounge throne. I think this is drawn from something in the movie, but I invented the back part of it. I wish they had also given me cat Yzma. Ravensburger still give me cat Yzma. I do.
There's many years of Lorcana to come, I would think, and let's hope we see that someday.
I would love to, if Disney's listening, talking plush cat Yzma, please. You can squeeze it and it says, a few lines from the movie in that funny little voice.
Get on that marketing.
I think they do have a plush of it, but I don't think it talks, and it should. Like, is that my voice? Is that my voice?
All right, so we're talking all about this art. So what's it like seeing your art out in the world being enjoyed by thousands of people?
I mean, it's a little bit surreal. I guess it's what I've been trying for all this time. I don't get out much. So I knew that this would be successful, but I haven't seen like the fame. A few people have come up to me and been like, "Whoa, I saw your thing and it was cool." And I just feel so removed from all that, because I'm over here in my little artist cottage with my little dolls, just like slaving away at my little desk and doing stuff and barely looking up. Like I didn't experience the like hype of Lorcana. I just went like, "Oh, is it doing well? Great, awesome! I'm working, cool. Good job. I hope it keeps doing well." It's really like cars whizzing past you on the expressway. You're just like, "Oh, good, awesome, yeah, all right, next thing." You're always working on the next thing. But yeah, it's been a little surreal. Like I said, I've only done 2 or 3 conventions that were specific to Lorcana, but it has been a bit surreal having people come up to you and they're all excited to get your autograph. And I often feel like I haven't earned it. It's a really common thing with anyone in the spotlight, where you're like, "Oh, this feels strange. I feel self-conscious. I don't want to ruin your card." And then I'm like, "No, they want you to sign it. Like they're paying for you to sign it, like please scribble on their card." So yeah, it's cool. It's surreal. I don't like to think about anything like fame when I'm working, because it ruins the work. It makes it scary. It makes me feel like I'm on a stage, and I like to be on stage in a musical. I love, put me in like a community theater production of The Music Man. I'm happy as a clam. But when I'm drawing, I go deeply inward, and I don't like to feel too many eyes on me then. So I feel a bit removed from the fame of it, or the success of it, but very happy for the success of it, in the sense that I want the world to be full of good things. And if we can put one more good thing out into the world that's of excellent quality and is fun and is nice, that makes me like happy for humanity as a whole. And I'm happy too, because this has provided so much good work for so many artists, and they're a wonderful community. And the people at Ravensburger have been lovely and very open to new artists. And so I want it to keep going, because it's really helping a lot of artists, in addition to giving something nice to the world. It's doing good stuff. So I'm happy about it.
It's kind of crazy how there's over 200 pieces of original art being commissioned every 3 months.
I love that. That makes me very happy.
But
And
it's
not
wild.
makes me happy. I'm more happy for the community, and especially the younger artists for whom this is a really, really big deal, than I am for me. Like, I'm happy for me. I'm very pleased, but I'm more heartened to see the people for whom this is their first big break. And for me, I feel lucky to be here, but it's kind of a side thing, right? It's like, oh, I do those when I have time, and they're really, really fun. And I give them everything I can when I'm on them. But yeah, I think I knew this would be successful from the get-go. I'm like, if they just don't fumble this, like if they don't stand in the way of the success of this thing, it's gonna succeed, because like really nice art plus Disney IPs plus like trading cards, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Kind of amazing I haven't done it before.
So I'm curious. You're talking about going to conventions. You've been to a few like Lorcana specific conventions, or that you've been there specifically for Lorcana. How have you been? I mean, you've talked about people coming up and getting autographs, but on a whole, how have you been treated by the TCG, trading card game, and the Lorcana world, the general public as a whole? What's that been like for you?
Everyone that I've interacted with from the Lorcana community has been really kind, very kind and very respectful, and I really like that. So I've had, messages, private messages from people saying, "Oh, I pulled your Cinderella and I'm so excited." And I'm always like, "Yay, I want to celebrate with them," because it's exciting to pull a special card. And no one ever has come at me, being like, "Oh, you owe me something," or, "Oh, I don't like you." Like, there's been no negativity, which is so wonderful for a fan base, because so many fan bases, have some kind of, either toxic element or nitpicky stuff, but people have just been happy and excited and, curious. And I just give that right back. I really love when goodness thrives on goodness. It creates this kind of, back and forth effect, almost like the positive version of feedback, in a microphone. Where you can, have you ever seen the movie Klaus? The one that's like Santa Claus, his origin story. It's an animated film on Netflix.
I haven't watched. I've been meaning to watch that, but I have not seen it yet.
Yeah. I have.
Yeah, it's heartbreakingly beautiful. It's hand drawn. I love it. But the premise of that film is that like a selfless deed always sparks another, and that's how you create a greater good. And so I love to see in little things that don't really matter, like, this is just like a fun card game, it's not life or death, but people are treating each other with great kindness and great respect, and that makes me so happy. I really do want to like live out the Disney princess ethos, because it's truly what I believe. It's served me well so far. So yeah, the community has been great. I have loved getting to meet children and parents who play together. That's so fun. I've loved getting to talk with people about the process. I'm very open, so if people have questions, I can't reveal everything because there are contracts and things, but I like to talk about how I make the art. And then I get to draw Disney characters for people, and that's really fun. I haven't drawn Disney characters in years. I used to draw them all the time. I've got binders full of fan art from when I was in high school. I wouldn't stop drawing Meg from Hercules. I've got essays about Meg and color studies and so many drawings of her. They still haven't given me Meg yet. I want to do Meg. She's my
If
girl.
you're listening, Meg and Maleficent.
Meg, Maleficent. I'd love to do an Ariel. See, Ariel was my first princess. Meg was the one who called me into the industry, and then Rapunzel's the one who was like the most like me, and also there when I was starting out, because I was at Disney when they were making Tangled. But yeah, the community's been really lovely. I love that, like, the healthy curiosity of like, oh, hey, what's it like to do that, without it being too prying, like, and what do you have for breakfast? Like, I don't want anyone to pry too much into my personal life, but if they want to talk about art, I'm always so happy to talk about that. Yeah, people have been great. It's been so cool seeing like grown men get really excited about like something I made. And like one of the fans brought me all these little gifts, just like little keychains and card packs and card protectors. And I was really touched. So yeah, people have been super nice.
That's so cool to hear. So, I mean, you said Disney goes way back. Would you consider this now like one of your highlights of your career, being able to create these pieces of art for Lorcana?
It's been really special. And I do think, especially that first Tiana, that was the kind of a perfect a perfect experience. It went so smoothly and it felt so natural. And then there was that little moment where I doubted myself towards the end, and I was like, oh no, I'm secretly not talented. And then I worked like 2 more hours. I'm like, oh no, actually it's good. That was a really special time. And then it came out so pretty. And then the Enchanted Cinderella, I was just honored to be considered good enough to do that, and then to be able to prove that I am, because I know I am. But like, there's that nasty little voice inside you that's like, are you sure though? Would you like to think about it? Maybe you're not, and you're just fooling everyone, And doing something, finishing something, and working hard on it shuts that voice up real quick. Finishing the task really helps with confidence, and that's something I didn't quite understand when I was younger, but I know now. It's really hard to tell mid-career as I am what will be the highlights of your career looking back. But I think so. I mean, I definitely feel very deeply grateful to be a part of this, and I feel a little bit in awe of um, just all the other cool artists who are making stuff, and I feel grateful to get to be in community with them. And I think more than the work or how it's regarded or whatever, I cherish the feeling of community that I found here. That's something I always wanted. Again, that's like, I wanted to be a Disney artist partly because I wanted that community. I wanted to be like with other artists who are driving each other to do better and supporting each other. And the other artists in Lorcana have been wonderfully supportive of one another, and I love to see it. It's like that utopia that you want. It might be the healthiest, or at least the most supportive artist community that I've been part of thus far.
Now I want to be a Disney artist.
Yeah, it's hard.
Now,
And
I can only imagine.
if they accept really badly done stick figures, I could be a Disney artist.
Right.
the right projects.
I'll do Oswald.
Like, I've been watching Dr. Katz, which is a show by I forget his name, but he also did Bob's Burgers, and the drawing style is like very, very amateur on purpose.
Yeah.
It like makes the comedy funnier. So, for the right project, that could be the right style.
Well, we again just want to thank you for coming on here today. I just wanted to ask you in closing, is there anything you wanted to say or share with the community as a whole? I mean, you've already shared so much, but is there anything, like, if you could get a message out to the Lorcana community, what would that message be?
I guess just thank you. Thank you for, thinking this is cool, and for spreading the joy of it, and for keeping it joyful, and keeping, a very positive tone throughout the fan base. I love that. Like I said, I love seeing people love and respect one another. That means the world to me. And I don't know what else to say. I'm just deeply, deeply grateful. I love that you guys love Lorcana, and I'm very happy to be a part of that. And I guess for any of you out there who have a dream that you're afraid to chase, or you are chasing, or it's hard, or who want to be artists and you're early in that process, or you're doubting yourself, just know that I've been there, that I still am there a lot of the time. And the fear never really goes away. I've always been like a highly anxious, highly sensitive person, prone to very intense feelings of every sort. And it does make chasing your dreams hard. And I've had, terrible setbacks and failures and things that I still cry about. And I cry, and I pick myself up, and I keep going. And if you can do that, you will eventually find something that's for you. And along the way, make sure to surround yourself with people who love you sincerely for who you are. Don't get into that comparison game. That game is poison. It really, it feels like it's driving you towards something better, but it's very deeply toxic to only be able to see your worth compared to someone else. Like, you as a human have worth inherently, regardless of what you accomplish or don't accomplish on this earth. You don't have to earn your place. I used to kind of feel like I did, because I had tied my self-worth to my success as an artist, and it's a terrible thing to do. So yeah, if you're chasing those dreams, it takes a long time, and very often they don't look like what you think they're going to look like. And sometimes that means you don't get what you want, and that can suck. and that's just a harsh reality of life. But you do find other things, and you find things along the way that you never thought you were going to get to do, and that's beautiful. And I love just enjoying the beauty of everyday life. While I have these big dreams in my head, I love petting my cats and making banana bread and sitting in the garden and talking with my husband and playing video games. Like, not being afraid to live a normal life, not feeling like, oh, but if I live a normal life, that's settling and then I'll never achieve my dreams. It's important that your successes, or any artistic things you want to make, or if you want to be a Lorcana artist or whatever, that those things are like the cherry on top of a fulfilled life, that you don't try to earn your way into being a happy whole person. These are just some things that I've kind of learned along the way, because like I said, I'm very prone to doubting myself. So I know the kind of thoughts that younger artists might feel, But as far as the community, just thanks for being awesome. Love you guys.
Well, we are deeply grateful that you were able to join us today. I mean, I've been inspired by your story. I've been illuminated by the process of creating Disney art, and honestly, it's made me appreciate the art a whole lot more just listening to everything that goes into it. And along the way, we've learned a lot of good lessons. So again, we really appreciate you coming on. And you guys, if you want to follow somebody amazing, go on to Instagram. I'm guessing that's the best place to follow you. And that's Casey Robin.
Thank you. Yeah, just Casey Robin on Instagram. And then I also have an Etsy if you want my prints. And yeah, anything cool I'm doing, I usually post on Instagram about it. And right now I'm working on so much stuff I'm not allowed to post about. So just sketches here and there until I can get those things out of NDA land. But yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
And I'm just saying, it's July, so we have lots of time to prepare to participate in March of the Fairies.
Fairies. And one thing that's really neat is I'm working with a friend. We are talking about doing a March of the Fairies art book, and to fund that via a Kickstarter, because he's done really successful Kickstarter campaigns before. So we're still in the kind of early planning stages, but like, I would love to get to make a fairy art book. So I will be posting all about that on my Instagram if that becomes a thing. And with March of the Fairies, I really encourage people of all ages and skill levels to join and like post whatever you want, even if it's like, here's a picture of me dressed up, or here's some fairy cakes I made. It's really about making the world a more magical place.
What if it's a stick figure fairy? I mean, that's where James and I are. Stick figure fairies.
Stick figure fairies. I've had all kinds. I've had like little children draw things, and I love that. It's really fun. But I really am out here just trying to bring some joy to the world with my art. And I think if you feel called to do the same too, there are a lot of ways to be brave and to fight in this scary world. And I feel that my weapon is kindness. It's very cheesy, but if anyone's seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, like the dad from that, it's like, this is how I fight with optimism. And I think that's extremely valid, and the world needs that too.
Very well said. So again, Instagram, Etsy, Casey Robin.
Yeah, and the bird.
And if you liked what you heard, you can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on the podcasting platform of your choice. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Dan Regal, and you can also check out for a couple more weeks the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog, because we are doing live podcasts about that, and the scheduled podcasts are coming up and all kinds of coverage. So I guess we'll see you next time, and thanks for joining us.
Wait, one last thing.
Yes.
I will be participating in a panel at Comic-Con on Saturday 7th. Yeah. So it's Saturday the 27th. At 7 p.m. It's called Spiritual Themes in Comics, and we're going to have a panel of people of all different walks of life and different points of view discussing spiritual themes in comics and movies and anime. And we like to get deep and talk about like philosophy and moral fortitude and what this means to us. And it's a very interesting discussion. It's really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll run into you again at a convention. Yeah. Comic-Con is a big place, though. It's
and I'm
amazing.
only Saturday because I just can't with the whole 4-day thing. Like I choose when to do Comic-Con. Very exhausting. I will also be at LA Comic-Con later in the fall, signing Lorcana cards. So
awesome.
There you go.
And
All right.
other things I'll post on my Instagram. So thank you guys.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.